Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm really excited about today's guest, Tanika De Souza from DC. And she dubs herself as the 100 Challenge Chick, empowering women to break the 100K income ceiling in their businesses as entrepreneurs, self-employed, and business owners. And I'm really excited to give her voice a platform and talk about entrepreneurship and the work that she's doing. So Tanika, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know your husband was on my podcast as well, social media. And so tell me more, tell the audience about, your work, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
So I guess similar to you, a lot of us choose career paths, right? And then it's like you get there and you're like, yay, I'm here. And then you realize this is not going to give me the income that I want, right? So what I learned about you is that you're helping physicians, because you would think, like, if you were a doctor, you clearly are going to like be so rich, right? When we're little kids, we think all the doctors are like very wealthy. But a lot of times what we don't factor in is what it takes to like build wealth and to like understand how to manage our finances. And I do that through entrepreneur. So I do coach others in the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur. But my biggest entrepreneurial venture right now is I own a staffing agency. So not only am I helping you like understand how to build your business, but I'm also helping you build the team that's going to give you your time back, right? Because what I was reading about you and how you help people is, what if you achieve the financial freedom, but then you can't enjoy it? Like, how much would that suck, right? Because you're making the money, but you're like stuck in that business. So I want to like take a two-prong approach where you're learning to build a business for yourself, but you're also learning how to build it in such a way that you have the time to enjoy the rest of your life.
Fascinating. So what you're describing is, building financial freedom, but also time freedom, which a lot of people don't understand. They're all about the finances and they get burned out. And once they make the shift from, solopreneur to business owner, entrepreneur, investors, that's when the real passive income comes. That's when they free up their time. They can do other things. Yeah. I love that. What's interesting is, I actually haven't had any guests on the show talk about staffing because, I'm talking to my other fellow entrepreneurs and they say it's really hard to hire good people because, the bad ones, they don't make it, or they'll, leave or quit or get fired. And then the good ones, they're doing their own thing. So, talk about this idea where people have trouble with staffing these days.
You kind of hit the main problem on the head. Is when we start our business, a lot of times, or I'm talking to entrepreneurs, but I think physicians are the same, right? You feel that you want to control your time, right? So you want to just do the things that you want to do, invest in the things that you care about. But then you realize there's only so much I can do by myself. You'll run into a lot of chaos with building your business. You'll start to have a lot of challenges. You can't grow beyond a certain point because you've reached the number of clients and patients that you can have. So a team is vitally important if you really want to scale. But I think most people can't. They have a hard time making that initial jump from solopreneur to staff. One, because they really don't want to give up their time freedom. They feel like this person's going to weigh me down. They're going to cost a lot of money, but they're not thinking about what this person is going to offer as far as growth for their company.
Yeah. And it's quite,
So
yeah, I love that. I love this idea because it's actually a really big problem. And recently I've actually turned to software solutions like scheduling and virtual assistants. I don't because they're not very, quite honestly, there's software that can do that, and now there's ChatGPT, editors. I don't need that anymore, so I can use software to do all of that. So um, it's quite interesting, especially with staff and then software. So tell kind of people, business owners, what are some of the essential key components of staff, what to look for, can they use software? Tell us more.
So I specialize in virtual offshore staff, right? That is something that, in the US and Canada, people are really very interested in, and but then they don't know how to do it, right? So it's like, oh, I heard if I hire, outside of this country or this continent, it's so much cheaper. And that is true, but there's so much other management because I'll give you a funny story. My husband and I hire a lot of virtual assistants. They definitely come from all over the globe. My son at the time was about 16. And so he's hearing us like have meetings with our virtual staff. And so he just decided that he was going to hire virtual staff for his own company. So he's a kid, right? But a lot of people make these same kind of kid mistakes where he literally just went on the platform. He interviewed a few people. He found someone that he felt like he could communicate with, and he hired. And so I just happened to like go near my son, and he was like, "Oh, I'm in a meeting." And I'm thinking, who's he in a meeting with? But then he came out and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I hired my first staff." So he was so proud of himself. And I asked the basic question: how are you going to pay them? He had no idea. It's not the same as in the US, or if you're in the same country, they don't take W-2s the same way that we do. Like how are you doing the currency conversions? There's just so many basic things, right? So I think people initially feel like, oh, it's cheaper, but then they immediately know that I don't know what I'm doing here. So that's where I come into play. Not just to like help you do payroll, which is something I definitely take off your plate, but I think where a lot of people have hangups, and I think this is what you were really getting at, is you have to hire for fit. So I spend a lot of time in the assessment process of understanding like who is Dr. Lou? What do you stand for? What do you value? How do you like to work with people? Because I can learn everything about the skill you want, but if I don't give you the person that aligns with your values and the things that are important to you, it doesn't matter that they can do the job. You're not going to get along with that person. They're not going to fit into your company. So I think more importantly is understanding who you are as a company, what you stand for, what you value, and finding people that fit into that value system.
Yeah, I love that. And so you talk about hiring for fit. There's a great book, Good to Great. It's talking about who, hire
Yes, put
who,
them on the right bus,
the right bus,
put
and
the
then
right people on the bus.
slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yes.
um what other, like, also especially with skills, talk about, for example, like basically routine, automated, repetitive versus like higher order, like decision making, judgment, creativity. What are the distinctions there?
So typically, when someone comes to me, they say, I need staff. And they don't have a clue what position or kind of role they even need to fill. So we are assessing all the things you said, like what are the tasks that they need to do? Is this like a routine thing? Do you need somebody who's going to think with you? Do you need somebody who's going to like, create with you? What is it that you're actually looking for? So what I do typically is assess the job that they're going to do. So a lot of times if someone is brand new and they're just like, I have so much going on, and they're just in this crazy panic state, I have them take a pause. And when they're doing tasks that someone else can do, just write that down. And I have them do that for about a week. And then we talk again, because if you're just in that chaos, you can't see very clearly what you need. Typically, when they come back to me, what they need falls into three major categories. And so I usually start companies, especially solo entrepreneurs, in these three areas. So one is an executive assistant. That person is going to help you if you have a lot of tasks on your plate. So let's say your email is just crazy, you're constantly getting calls, you need to, like Dr. Lou, he's talking to all these people, you need to keep that organized. You got podcasts to be released, edit, publish, all these things, but they're all on your plate. Probably an executive assistant is good for you. The next kind of level up is a project coordinator. In truth, adding on your podcast probably means you should step up to a project coordinator, because you could think of each podcast as a project. So to get out episode 1, you need to, book the guests, record, you need to edit, you need to publish, you need to promote this podcast. So all of those things a project coordinator can help you do. And then a third level is when you have a team. So I did say solopreneurs, but some solopreneurs have contractors that they work with or other businesses that they're coordinating with. So if you have to deal with multiple people and multiple projects, you need that higher level thinking, organization that comes with a project manager. So I typically will start someone in one of those three categories, because once they get their business under control, they can think more clearly about how they want to really build out their team. But usually one of those three people will be your first hire when you come to me.
Fascinating. And I know, we're coming kind of towards the end of it, but, talk about, your staffing agency, what you do, how can people reach you, and some of the, do you offer placement, or, do business owners come to you and say, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z? Tell us more.
So my company is called High Octane Teams. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Tanika De Souza there, and also High Octane Teams does have a business page. We haven't built that up quite yet, and you can also find us on the web. But when you reach out to me, I'm very used to, because I do business development and other business coaching, I'm very used to hearing like all the things that someone wants to explode and say like is going on. So you don't have to come to me very prepared or scripted with what's going on. I have a very thorough assessment process that gets to the heart of what you're dealing with. And then we move forward into what position will fill that. But I do spend a lot of time with you really understanding who you are and what you value, so that I can bring that perfect fit onto your team. Once we understand what you need, then I find that person. Screening when you're dealing with offshore virtual assistants is not an easy task. So I have a team that goes out and finds the right candidates. And because we're primarily looking for those three types of people, I'm just constantly looking for them, so that when you come, I'm like, oh, yes, we did meet a young lady who fits that. And then I introduce you to the candidates. Once you make a choice, then we don't leave. We stay and we're helping you manage that person, because what's obvious with offshore virtual assistants is cultural difference. But in truth, these are things that people should do anyway. They just don't. But they will do it because they understand there's cultural difference. So we make sure that you're paying attention to your meeting schedule and how things are getting delivered and how you communicate. You'll be surprised at how many managers or executives literally, they don't have like, this is where I communicate. It's like I sometimes email, I sometimes this, and it's like the person can't keep up. So I help you streamline your system of working with your virtual assistant. I also do a lot of training of your virtual assistant. So if you tell me the software that you use or things that they need to know, they come to you knowing at least the basics and introduction to those tools, and then you can train them further on how you use the tool. And then I also support them with community. So all the virtual assistants that we work with, they create a community together where if you say, I'm doing this certain type of project, they can go to their team and ask for assistance. So that's what we do. It takes a lot off your plate as far as having a staff person. And this is what we do professionally. So we understand how to build a team and how to match for fit.
Interesting. And is your revenue model, is it like a consultation, or is it basically like kind of like an Airbnb, like a match, and then is it like a commission? I'm just curious.
So they just pay an hourly rate, and that covers the entire process. So you would come to me, and if depending on the skill set you need, we quote you the hourly rate for that person, or we try to understand what your budget is for that staff. We tend to hire either full-time or part-time for you, and then you just pay that rate to us, and we do all the rest of the work in the background.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. And then you mentioned, and how can people connect with you? Reach out to you, check out your social media, etc.
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn with High Octane Teams, and my name is Tanika De Souza. So you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can go to the site, High Octane Teams, and that will give you a link to literally just book a consultation.
Yeah, and for all the listeners out there, really interesting, talking about staffing agency, entrepreneurship, time freedom, and the solutions that Tanika has. All of her resources will be in the links and show notes. And thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lou.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.